الآن.
Good evening, dear viewers. Welcome to our MISAD Bulletin, and we shall start with our headlines. Palestinian PM convenes first government meeting in Gaza. Catalans urged to strike to protest police crackdown on Paul. And moving on to our details, starting with the violence in Syria. The Islamic State group on Tuesday claimed responsibility for a pair of suicide bombings in the Syrian capital that killed 17 civilians and policemen the previous day. In Monday's bombings, 2 men attacked a police station in the Al-Maidan neighborhood with several bombs before one of them blew himself up, according to the Syrian Interior Minister. He also said the other bomber made it inside the compound where police killed him, causing his bomb to explode. On the other hand, the Islamic State militant group claimed its responsibility for Al-Maidan attack. In relation to the context, Russia's military on Tuesday said its airstrikes in eastern Syria this week killed more than 300 IS militants. Russia's defense ministry said in a statement early on Tuesday that its airstrikes just outside Deir al-Zur on the eastern bank of the Euphrates River killed more than 304 IS fighters and left more than 200 wounded. The ministry said the airstrikes also hit and destroyed an IS training center, as well artillery positions, tanks and ammunition depots belonging to the militants. In the West Bank, the Palestinian Prime Minister held his first cabinet meeting in Gaza on Tuesday as part of a major reconciliation effort to end the 10-year rift between his Fatah group and Gaza's ruling Hamas Islamic militants. Tuesday's meeting in Gaza took place at the residence of Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. It marks the first step in the most ambitious attempt at reconciliation since Hamas seized power of the coastal strip in 2007. Rami Hamdallah, the premier of the Palestinian government, said the only way to statehood is through unity. He also said the reconciliation will require hard efforts, time, patience, and wisdom. Meanwhile, Iran's foreign minister on Tuesday met with Qatar's ruling emir as a quartet of Arab states continues its boycott of the energy-rich nation. On Tuesday, Iranian state media published images of Mohammad Javad Zarif in Doha meeting with Qatar's ruling emir, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. It marks Zarif's first trip to Qatar since the diplomatic crisis began on June 5th. It's worth mentioning that Zarif on Monday met with Omani officials, including Sultan Qaboos bin Said. On the other side of the world, several thousand protesters gathered on Tuesday outside the Barcelona headquarters of Spain's national police to protest alleged brutality by police during a disputed referendum on Catalonia's secession that left hundreds of people injured. The crowd gathered in the Catalan capital shouting slogans calling Spanish police an occupying force and urging them to leave the northeastern region. The protest came as several small labor unions and grassroots pro-independence groups urged workers throughout Catalonia to go on partial or full-day strikes, and as the region's leaders ponder a possible declaration of independence 2 days after the referendum that turned violent and that Madrid deemed illegal and invalid. On to the United States. Without providing any evidence to support the claim, the Islamic State group on Monday said the gunman in the mass shooting in Las Vegas was from its ranks who had converted to Islam months ago. Authorities have yet to identify a motive for the shooting and said initially there was no evidence of any connection to international terrorism. From another perspective, police have identified the shooter as Stephen Craig Paddock, 64-year-old of Mesquite, Nevada, and have said he killed himself after the shooting. But authorities have not commented on his religious background or said what might have motivated the attack. Moving on to Latin America, Ecuador's Vice President George Glass was jailed on Monday after the Supreme Court ordered his arrest while he is investigated for allegedly taking bribes from a Brazilian construction giant involved in a sprawling regional graft scandal. Police took Glass into custody at his residence in the city of Guayaquil and later transported him on an Air Force plane to the capital Quito, where he is being held. Several supporters and former aides rushed to Guayaquil's Air Force Base to express solidarity with Glass. This came after a judge of Ecuador's top court accepted a request from prosecutors that Glass be detained to guard against any attempt to escape. On another side, authorities in Madagascar are struggling to contain an outbreak of plague that has killed 24 people since last month. The dead included a basketball coach from the Seychelles who was participating in a tournament in Madagascar's capital Antananarivo. The government banned concerts and other large public gatherings in the capital and began a campaign to disinfect school classrooms in the city, compelling students to stay at home in the coming days. From another aspect, the World Health Organization says at least 114 people have been infected and that unlike past plague outbreaks in Madagascar, the current one is affecting large urban areas. And finally, the Nobel Physics Prize 2017 has been awarded to 3 scientists for their roles in detecting faint ripples flying through the universe called gravitational waves. Sweden's Royal Academy of Science announced on Tuesday that the winners are Rainer Weiss of Massachusetts Institute of Technology and Barry Barish and Kip Thorne of the California Institute of Technology. The 3 were key to the first observation of gravitational waves in September 2015. It's worth mentioning that the waves were predicted by Einstein a century ago as part of his theory of general relativity. And before ending our news, let's take another look at the most important headlines for today. Palestinian PM convenes first government meeting in Gaza. Catalans urged to strike to protest police crackdown on Paul. And we reached the end of our News Bulletin for today. Thank you for joining us and see you tomorrow in a new bulletin.